Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my humble home, my house, and my property here in Livingston, Montana. I've got the 28th of October of 2021. Now, what I thought I would do here today is tell a story. On my channel in the past, I used to tell a lot of stories. And I was thinking here the other day, your channel has gotten sour, bitter, negative, that kind of crap. And I got thinking, well, this very last summer I just went through, I called this the summer of death because of all the weird crap that was happening around here. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I've got a hunting story from way back in my youth. You may find this funny, you may not. Can't help it one way or the other. But this story involves a brother of mine that's 2 years younger than me and a friend of his. This friend of his his name is Danny, whatever. I really don't like to name off people because I've got a few of my relatives that watch my videos and they'll get a hold of me and they'll say, Jim, you didn't get this part right. You screwed this up. And the guy's name over here was this. And, all that nitpicking stuff, when really you're just trying to get the core of the story across. Well, that's kind of what this is all about. Anyway, my brother, myself, and Danny, this incident happened back in the 80s. I'm going to say the mid-80s, early 80s. And we planned on it. I was living down in Idaho at the time, so was my brother, and Danny was from Idaho and all that. Down there in southern Idaho, good old potato land. Well, bow hunting season always started around the 1st of September and ran through most of September and part of October, but they've kind of changed things down there now. But anyway, I live up here in Montana, so Idaho's not my concern. But at the time, I had to pay attention to what was going on, the laws and all this other stuff. But I was involved with bow hunting back in them days. Like I've said many times on my channel, just recently took bow hunting back up again. No, I shouldn't say bow hunting because I don't really know if I'm going to... I took archery back up because I'm not too awful sure if I'm going to go bow hunting or not yet. I can't do it this year because bow hunting's it's all over with. But anyway, we had planned half the summer to go on this elk hunting trip up in southern, slow down, Jim, you'll get this. Up in central Idaho, there's this little tiny town, if you look up there, right about the middle of the state, there's a place called Yellow Pine, Idaho. And that's where we decided to go. Yellow Pine's only a small little mountain town of about probably, I don't think there's any more than 100 people that lives there, But anyway, that's where we were headed to because back in them days, you couldn't jump on the internet and just look something up on Google Earth or Google Maps or like people can do now. We had to take the old USFS or BLM maps and fold them out and, and play connect the dots and all that other place. But we found this area up there in central Idaho around this little town of Yellow Pine called Missouri Ridge. And it looked like it was pretty good elk country, even though we'd never been in there or nothing like that. But we get all our bows and the rig that we were taking and, our packs and all that stuff because we were going to do that kind of hunting. We were hunting out of packs, backpacking tents, that sort of stuff. So anyway, we get up to the trailhead and parked our rig and got all our gear out and took off up this trail called Missouri Ridge, and it was actually a lot further up to the top because we wanted to break over that top, at least see what was on the other side and to see if we were into some good elk hunting country, So it took us about, I want to say like 3 hours of humping to get up on the top of this place called Missouri Ridge. And as... This joke is really on me. It's not about me kidding around too much about Danny and my brother and stuff like that because the joke is really right here, but there was a funny thing or two that happened in between, okay? Give me a break here as a storyteller. But we get up on the top of this Missouri Ridge, and my brother's looking a little peaked. You know, a little white around the gills, you know, that kind of stuff. And I says, hey, bro, I said, what's going on over there? He was sitting on a rock, you know, kind of hound doggy looking and everything, kind of pale. And he goes, man, he says, I'm parched. When my brother used to say he was parched, that meant he was dry. You understand what I mean? Yeah, I said, didn't you get you a drink of water or something back at the pickup there or whatever have you? And he goes, oh, he says, I can't remember what he said, but all I know is he made it perfectly clear. He made it perfectly clear to me that if he didn't get some water quick, he was going to die, you know? And I thought, okay, so I got a pair of binoculars out and I'm looking around trying to, because I'd never been up in this country. Danny had never been up there. My brother had never been up there. But down the mountain, straight down the mountain, almost to the, what would have been the southeast, I guess, is the direction. Yeah, southeast. I spotted a lake down there. You know, one of these high mountain lakes, a little lake, you know. And I told my brother, get your gear, man. I said, let me stumble you down off of here and get you some water. I see a lake down there. And so, man, and my brother's like, man, we better get down there quick or I'm going to perish, you know. Oh, for some good old H2O, you know. So anyway, we go a tripping and a stumbling down this landslide or this stupid goofy goat trail we were on. And we get down there towards that lake and everything. And I asked my brother, I said, you going to live? You know, and all that. Yeah, I'll make it and all that. And man, he gets, you know, like within about 50 yards of that lake, and there was a nice creek feeding into that lake. And I remember he goes a bootlegging along and throws his bow down and his backpack and everything, and he just goes a stumbling through all the bull grass or snake grass or whatever you want to call it, real tall, thick grass that grows around places like that. And he just threw himself right into the water, you know. Well, I'm probably being a little dramatic here for, you know, for storytelling purposes. But for the most part, he did a header in the water because that's how thirsty he was. You know, he's down there in this basin with the frogs and mosquitoes and all this stuff. So anyway, he finally gets his drink, a gut full of water, and I asked him if he was going to live, and, you know, and I'm sure he didn't curse at me except for under his breath, you know, because I was one of these kind of guys that was always jabbing at people, kidding with people, stuff like that, you know. So anyway, we go find ourselves a nice little area there, you know, because we pulled up in that lake. It was probably like 4 o'clock in the afternoon or some goofy time like that. It was in the afternoon, so we decided not to do any hunting that night. We decided to just get our camp all set up and whatnot have you. So we got us some supper, and of course, you know, here come nightfall. And let me see how many minutes I got. 8 minutes. Boy, I better hurry along here, man. Nobody will watch this long-winded story. But anyway, we go to bed, okay? You know, we slip in. My brother and old Danny, they were sharing one tent, and I had my own tent, and we all went off to sleep because it was a long haul in there, and all three of us were really tired. Okay, well, the next morning, I wake up like at 5:30 or 6 o'clock. It was barely light, you know, and me like a dumb, I mean, everything from what I'm going to say from now on is kind of well, it's the truth, but it never worked out the way I was thinking it was supposed to work out. But I get about half dressed and I grab my elk bugle. You know, I had one of those corrugated hose, big old elk bugles. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. Matter of fact, I think I was using a turkey diaphragm at the time, I think, to make that elky sound, you know, how elk do. You know, but anyway, I stick my elk bugle out the flaps of the tent and cut loose, cut loose a great big long-winded, elk call like that. The only reason why I did that, in my mind's eye, was to wake up them characters sleeping next to me, which that it did, because it was probably less than 5 minutes after I cut that bugle loose at an elk, a real live elk, bugled on the other side of that lake. And when those guys in that tent, because they were just in there rolling around, scratching their rear end, and letting off methane gas, how guys do, and all this other stuff. Well, they started getting a little active and throwing boots on and stumbling out of that tent and everything. And by that time, I was on already a partial dead, well, not really a dead run, but I'm scooting along, hollering at those guys, telling them to hurry up, telling them we got elk to kill, and all this other stuff, and trying to lace my boots up at the same time, and fumbling with my bow, and everything haywire, everything all kinds of backwards and haywire and all that. So these guys getting back of me, they're in back of me about 20, 30 yards, and we're all loping around because we know that elk's on the other side of the lake. So we expeditiously move around on the other side of that lake where that elk was, and I bugled at him a few times, and he bugled back a few times, and anyway, we all three of us get on the other side of that lake in an area where we thought he was. The key in on that, where we thought he was. Those elk sometimes can be coming at you from all kinds of directions and you don't even know it. I'm not kidding you, man. The Indians used to refer to elk as the spirit deer, and I can understand why, too. But those guys didn't want to tackle into that elk. They told me, they said, Jim, you're better with this bugle than we are. Why don't you go ahead and see if you can bugle him in and all that? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm muttering underneath my breath, yeah, you chicken crap guys, chicken shit, all that, and I don't say much to them, but they took up their respective spots wherever that was. I think it was off to the right of me, but I could tell that elk was downhill from me, and it was over to my left and everything, so I go creeping through the woods the best I can and all that, and I find it, and I tell myself, man, I'm in this thing alone, so I found myself a great big Douglas fir or a pine or something. I mean, this tree was like this big around, good couple of feet there, because I wanted to be in a position where I could kind of move around this tree depending on which way this elk was going to approach me. But that's the problem. I could not tell which way that elk was coming in. You know what I mean? No matter how I bugle a little bit at him, and every once in a while I could hear the brush snapping, or he would let off some smaller squeaks, or, how they do, and all of that. And you want to talk about somebody that started quaking in their boots, it was me. Not my brother and not old Danny, they were back where it was safe. I'm the only one that had his rear end hanging out in the breeze because I don't know which way this elk is coming. I'm not kidding you. You could see this ring right around this tree where I was like this, doing this, that kind of thing, ring around the rosy, I cut a furrow all the way around that tree with my ass, trying to figure out where this bull was coming from. Well, in the process of all this, I then screwed everything up and whatnot, happy because that bull finally lost interest in me and took off. It must have winded me or something, but I didn't exactly approach that bull with like some kind of a hero either, so we lost out on a perfectly good bull because there again I was unsure of myself, wasn't quite ready, didn't quite know where this bull was coming from, what direction, and all that stuff. So that's my little story. It isn't much of a story, but what the heck, it's better than me sitting around here talking about all the crap that's going on the internet, being boring and all that. So I told myself the other day, why don't you start telling a few more stories? So anyway, this is really long, 15 minutes long. I'm out of here, ladies and gentlemen. We never did see no more elk the rest of that trip, but anyway, whatever. So I shall see you on down the trail, see you on down the pike. Take care of yourselves, and adios, my friends.